Don't listen to it. Crows are all liars. I know a story about a crow.
I hate your stories.
I know a story about a boy who hated stories. I could tell you about Sir Duncan the Tall. Those were always your favourites.
Those weren't my favourites. My favourites were the scary ones.
Welcome everyone. I'm a lady of Westeros, and today we will be discussing prophecy. A prophecy that has echoed throughout the generations. The dragon must have 3 heads. But what if it is not just about Targaryens? What if it is the key to stopping the long night itself? In my previous videos, where lore as a collective myth, Bran Stark shaping the faith, and from Catholicism to Westeros, how George R. R. Martin made Bran Stark a god. I've explored an idea that Bran Stark might be more than just a greenseer. I believe that he will become Lord, the god of fire and light, by overcoming the Weirwood trap and Bloodraven's influence, the influence of the entity that I believe controls the mind and body of Bloodraven. And we've also dived into how George R. R. Martin's Catholic upbringing has subtly shaped his characters, with Bran Stark echoing the godlike sacrifice of Jesus Christ. Now, I hope to bring it all together. In this video, we will unravel how Azor Ahai, Lightbringer, and the prophecy the dragon must have 3 heads might not be about warriors and kings, but about a god, time travel, time loops, Bran Stark's ultimate ascension, and a little bit more. Now, let's dive in. The prophecy the dragon must have 3 heads reverberates through the Song of Ice and Fire, hinting at a trio of figures that are destined to end the long night. Rooted in the Targaryen sigil and in prophecy, it suggests not just a symbolic union, but more of a cosmic necessity, a trinity of saviors to banish the darkness. Here we will explore why the 3 heads are vital, identifying them as Bran Stark as Lord, Daenerys Targaryen as Azor Ahai, and Jon Snow as Lightbringer. We will also go into how Bran's victory over the Weirwood Net and its trap and the entity controlling Bloodraven enables the others to fulfill their role and the grand design to fulfill their destinies. The Targaryen banner, a 3-headed dragon. It recalls Aegon the Conqueror and his sisters, Visenya and Rhaenys, embedding the number 3 in their legacy. In Daenerys' visions in the House of the Undying, a disembodied voice declares the dragon must have 3 heads. While later in that same time period within the House of the Undying, Dany comes across Rhaegar, her brother, and he's gazing at his son, and he says, there must be one more. The dragon must have 3 heads. This prophecy transcends literal dragons, pointing at 3 figures, 3 individuals bound by fate. Bran Stark, as Lore incarnate, emerges as a link pin, a pin that passes through the end of like an axle and keeps the wheel in position, allowing it to turn and do the job that it must do. He is this, and he is the divine force keeping things moving as they should, and in turn unlocking the potential of many characters, but especially that of Dany and Jon. The number 3 in myths and legends and Christianity, with the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, the Trinity, it's all about the number 3. And I think that it is significant in the Song of Ice and Fire. It is a thing that the number 3 signifies like completeness, mind, body, and soul, past, present, and future. And again, this goes across many different mythologies and religions. In the Song of Ice and Fire, it echoes through the 3 dragons that Daenerys has. The Aegon and his 2 sisters being 3 conquering Targaryens, And I think that you can also even look at like the 3 Stark children that are more closely tied to the old gods and those kind of ways. Bran, Arya, and Jon. Bran's transition as R'hllor could elevate this trinity, aligning it with all the prophecies, um, all of it that is kind of demanded to make this all clink in together, which we'll go into in just a minute, as well as go into how Arya has a role to play within all of this. And again, we'll go into that in just a moment. I'm going to start this off with saying that I do not particularly think that all of the dragons are going to make it to the final battle. I think that Dany will most definitely have Drogon. That's who she's bonded with. That's her baby. Um, and I think that the others will more than likely be killed somehow. Jon may get a dragon. If he does, of course, that would be Rhaegal because he's named after, Rhaegar, and that's his daddy, and it could be much like we see on the TV show Game of Thrones on HBO, where Jon bonds with him, and him and Dany can like fight the others riding upon their dragons. And then if all 3 made it, I could then see, I guess, Bran not like literally riding him because Bran's broken, but Bran could definitely like warg into Viserion and bond with him, or just use again that warging green seer kind of northern magic to just kind of like take him over like he does everything else that he wants to take over mentally, like Holdor or Summer. And so I think that could happen, but I personally don't lean that way. I think that Dany will be Azor Ahai riding her dragon, breathing fire and vengeance, and just taking out whites as Jon rallies the troops, leading the people as this metaphorical light bringer, guiding the army of the living against the army of the dead, as Bran is doing his mental warging thing, green seer, all seeing R'hllor, big god energy, to maybe break down the Weirwood Net fully. And if it is working and has been taken over by the great other to bring about the long night, if Bran could like break that, he would maybe open up a way for Dany and Jon, Azor Ahai and Lightbringer, to finish the fatal blow to bring down this great entity. I do believe the dragons will have a part in it. Maybe, again, not all of them, but at least Drogon's going to be there, right? We're going to see him flying around burning some stuff. It's going to be great. And if we look at the series title itself, The Song of Ice and Fire, it invokes harmony of opposites, ice and fire. Dany embodying fire as the mother of dragons, and Jon representing ice through his Stark blood and his deep northern roots, and Bran as R'hllor, bridging forces with divine insight. He could potentially be the one that reveals to Jon and Dany Jon's heritage of R plus L equals J, and guide this union and bring them together by blood and necessity, countering the great other's chaos, bringing balance where there's not been before, keeping things on track. Again, that pin link that keeps the wheel turning. And I think that's how it is with the Song of Ice and Fire. It is one of the biggest hints that these 2 figures are going to be pivotal in the end game goal of the battle for the long night, the battle to bring about the dawn. So I've said that Dany, in my opinion, is going to be Azor Ahai, and that Jon will be Lightbringer. And I know that Lightbringer is supposed to be a flaming sword and all of that good stuff that Azor Ahai like wields. But I think that if we really look at it, there are a few things that are just too on it to not be Azor Ahai for Dany and Jon as like a metaphorical Lightbringer. Um, Dany as Azor Ahai hits many different things. Her path aligns with the Azor Ahai prophecy so very well. She was reborn amongst smoke and salt on Khal Drogo's funeral pyre, cloaked in smoke from the wood burning and the body burning, and salt from all the tears that she had shed in her very short life. So many tears. Dany was so mistreated by like everybody, and then when she thinks she's happy, everything goes wrong, and her tears have totally like just coated her with her loss in this again short little life. She's only like what 13 or 14 when Khal Drogo dies. And then she awakens dragons from stone. And again, that's like a no-brainer. She hatches the dragon's eggs, and we get Drogon, Rhaegal, and Viserion. And duh, again, easy peasy. And then Born Beneath a Bleeding Star, again, works very well for Dany because she was reborn, and that comet shot across the sky bleeding red. That old Nan said, she could taste it. It's like dragons are being reborn. Azor Ahai definitely fits Dany very well. And then if we look at Jon Snow as Lightbringer, Jon embodies Lightbringer, in my opinion. He is a sword that is forged through sacrifice. Forged in sacrifice that is just, it makes this poor boy. His whole life is about sacrificing his wants, his desires for his older brother because he's a bastard and he knows he can never attain it, dealing with all the BS that Catelyn Stark put him through. And then he sacrifices everything to join the Night's Watch and become a brother of the Night's Watch, to then kill the boy Jon Snow so the man can live. And he kind of does that. He sacrifices his childhood, his youth, his innocence, and focuses on being a man. And then he's killed for it. Okay. Jon has sacrificed so much. And this, I think, mirrors the forging of Lightbringer, where Azor Ahai had tried several times until he was finally able to do it and temper it in Misa Misa's heart, and which we'll be going over in a moment too, because Misa Misa is coming up. Okay, but then we have again Bran Stark as the God R'hllor, and he transcends just regular mortality. Okay, he totally could be R'hllor, the God of Light. But again, first he must defeat this entity that has set the Weirwood trap. Okay, the entity that I really do believe is controlling Bloodraven. Bloodraven is no more than a vessel being used, a puppet with a puppeteer pulling his little strings. Okay, and has been doing this for a long time. And so Bran has to overcome this Weirwood trap, this magical thing that has been set since like forever, and I think has been sucking in unexpected green seers to use for their own purpose, be it for this entity self just to continue on living, or perhaps serving the great other. But Bran's green seeing ascension, becoming more than just a green seer, ascending to godlike power with his all-knowing from past, present, future, being omnipresent to an extent. I think this will shatter this bondage that has been forced upon the Weirwood network and set it ablaze with divine light to where the way it used to be before whatever it was corrupted the Weirwood net, which I think has definitely got to do with like the first long night or the coming of dragons when the moon cracked the very first time. But again, who knows? Who knows? I'm going off topic. But Bran will have to defeat this entity and take over the Weirwood net, reset it back to the way it should be, so that he can will this knowledge of past, present, and future to guide Daenerys and Jon to their roles, to victory, and to bringing about the dawn. Jon Snow as Lightbringer implies a forging through sacrifice, echoing Azor Ahai, plunging um, the blade into Nisa's heart. I think that Arya, as Jon Snow's closest living kin, the one person out of like everyone that Jon loved and held dear to his heart, and that has never like thought anything ill of, and who has never thought anything ill of him, treated him as a brother more than even Robb ever did. He loves Arya. Arya loves him. And I think that it's going to be a heartbreaking thing that Arya, her death during the long night, or the battle for the long night, that her death at the hands of Dany, or perhaps Bran's positioning her into place so that it happens, so that Jon can be officially forged into Lightbringer, will be her main and pivotal role. And not to take away the fact that Arya's my favorite character. She really is. I love Dany. Dany's awesome. Okay, many other characters throughout like the history of A Song of Ice and Fire are awesome. I like Dunk and Egg. They're great. Okay, but Arya, she was my first favorite. I love her. She is so bad, and she is just a little spitball of fire, and she's great. But I think that during the battle, somehow or another, Jon is going to see her die. And in the books, there's always the foreshadowing that George R. R. Martin does. And there's that one line where Jon's telling her, when winter comes, they're going to still find you with that needle in your hand. And he's talking to Arya. And then later she names her sword Needle. And I think that it's kind of foreshadowing her end all death, that she will die with her needle in hand, ready to fight, doing her little thing. But she will die. And this will be the moment that the blade is plunged through her heart, which plunges into Jon's and rips him into shreds, and totally makes him Lightbringer. It is the one thing that is going to push him over the edge and give him the needed drive, the needed passion and hurt and everything to do the final finishing blow to the great other and in the long night. And I think truly that Arya's death is going to be the thing that does this, the thing that drives him in the end, because she is the only person that truly Jon's ever loved. I know everyone wants to see Dany and Jon get together, which that'd be great, cool, have them get together at the end. But I really do think that losing Arya, it will break Jon. It will make Jon no longer Jon, but Lightbringer. George R. R. Martin, his tapestry of prophecy and sacrifice, reveals a trinity. One where Bran Stark is R'hllor, Daenerys is Azor Ahai, and Jon Snow is Lightbringer. Bran's triumph over the Weirwood Net and Bloodraven's puppeteer, perhaps an agent of the Great Other. This will free the world and allow magical roots to once more spread out, enabling Daenerys and Jon to end the long night. Bran Stark's R'hllor-like omnipresence mirrors Christ in Christian theology, a Catholic echo in Martin's work, while Daenerys' fire in Jon's ice forges redemptive harmony of sorts. But we know now with Martin that salvation lies not with one's Savior, but with their unity. A testimony to Martin's vision of flawed heroes prevailing through collaboration. Together, they can banish an eternal night, heralding in a new dawn. But what do you think? Is Bran Stark R'hllor made flesh? Has he been the power behind all of the magical forces throughout Westeros and the world beyond, guiding our beloved characters to their destiny? But what do you think? Is Bran Stark R'hllor made flesh? Has he been the power behind the magical forces that have been guiding our beloved characters to their destinies? only to then be revealed after he conquered the dark forces within the Weirwood Net, setting the system and himself free. Let me know in the comments, and until next time, keep your candles lit and your fires burning, because your destiny just may be dancing within the flames. Now, y'all have made it this far, so you might as well go that extra step and like, share, and subscribe. Bye.